While I'm waiting for the glue to dry up on that brush X, I'm going to work on this little baby Wilton. Somebody has painted it. It's got burgundy paint on here. It's not the original color that I can see some of the original paint further down. So I'm going to go the route of doing my own thing on it, doing my perceived restoration on here. I'm going to clean up a lot of it and repaint it. I think I'm going to try to make it look like my big Wilton 600. So this piece is jammed in there. It's not wanting to move. It's bent. Yeah, it's going to have to be straightened out. I wonder if it'll come the other way. Have to straighten that up a little bit. Bent just enough that it doesn't want to function properly. But we can fix that. This other side, though, is working just fine. Got that apart. Now, let's see if we can get these jaws off. Junk in there. Crud. There we go. Oh, I think that the damage on top of here is crushing that screw, not allowing it to come out. Try something different. All right, breaking out the gunsmithing tool set. See if I can find a bit that fits this correctly. Just kind of proving to be difficult. That screw is all boogered up. Tell. I don't know if y'all can see it or not. See, that screw is all boogered up. Here it comes. There we go. Tiny little thing. So far, it hasn't been too difficult to get apart. On this dynamic, the one of the screws holding in the jaw on it was really boogered up. I'm gonna have to see if I can carve in another slot in the screw. If not, I'll just replace it. But so far, it's not coming apart with too much difficulty. Very tiny. I didn't realize it was as small as it is. Let's get it cleaned up. Clean it up nicely. I've got most of everything cleaned up on the wire wheel. I'm going to come in and just clean some of this up with some files, make it a little bit more presentable. Some of the factory casting lines taken out. Get that smoothed up and looking a little better. And I'm going to do this. This is needed. Bad castings all the way around this thing. Turn this around so y'all can see it. Y'all can tell how bad they are here. It's like that all over the vise. So I'm just going to come in and clean them up. There are parts where the wire wheel over there wasn't able to get to, so I'm get a Dremel in here and try to clean up a lot of the rust and paint that's left over. That one's almost gone. One thing about these little Scotch-Brite wheels, they work really well, but man, they get chewed up and they're gone quickly. Looks like it's working all right. So what I've got here is just an old 556 bore brush. I like how it steps up and can get in places. So I am nearly finished cleaning the vise up. I still have handles to do. I got to straighten those, and then I'm going to do the same process where I take aluminum oxide strips and try to smooth them out a little bit, just polishing it up, cleaning it up. The vise has damage all over it. It's not a big deal because it's used. But I'm going to clean it up the best as possible. And I thought about doing filler, but I'm going to leave the character that it has. I've come in and I've trued up things. I've cleaned out all the screw holes. One thing, two things actually were missing on this. The static jaw had a pin, but this dynamic jaw, the pin was missing. I thought I was going to have to manufacture a pin, but I went to the hardware store and found a roll pin that I think I can trim to size and crush enough to get it to fit in here. And then the cap for the body of the vise, like on all bullet vices, is missing. Found a freeze plug from the auto parts store that it's almost the right size. I'm probably just going to have to trim a little bit of the outside diameter to get it to fit in there. I'm excited. It's getting there. just finishing up taping everything off, and I'm going to paint it the same way I did the Wilton 600. I'm going to start with a base coat of a flat spruce green, and then it's going to get a couple of top coats of a gloss sage green. And then I'm going to go through and rough it up, take the paint away, just like I did to weather it, if you will, like I did on the 600. So any place that there's wear and damage on the little Wilton is where you will see wear and damage on the finished product. Well, I've got the paint drying out there. Go ahead and blew up some parts. Went ahead and just replaced the screws, because the ones that were with the vise were really bad shape. You know what? I think I got stainless steel screws, so I don't know if these are going to blue or not. Doesn't look like they are. Nope, they're not going to blue. That's all right. I can blew up these other parts though. Oh yeah. And I'm not going for a really dark blue. I want it to look old and used, so I'm not going for a really dark finish. I'm going to buff that out. Oh, and it's not going to fit in there. All right, not a problem. I mean, it's turning dark. It's turning really dark. But after I buff it with the steel wool, it'll give the desired look that I'm going for. Am I going to fit in there? Yep. There's freeze plug from the auto parts store. Get this blued up. The longer I let it sit in there, the darker it's getting. So I'm fine with that, because then I can take the steel wool and get the overall appearance that I want in the oil. I don't know if these jaws will fit. Yep. Awesome. So what's nice about this little bitty vise is all the parts have been easy to work with. I bet weathering it though is going to be a challenge. I bet that's going to be fun. Don't know if y'all can tell or not, but I have burnished most of the bluing off of these parts, so it looks worn. That's the look I'm going for. And all I got to just do these parts here, do the same thing to them. It's just rubbing it back and forth with the steel wool until I get the look I'm going for. And as far as oil goes, whatever you got, this is actually cooking oil of some kind that I stole from the kitchen. Just going to do this to all the parts until they have the desired effect that I want. kind of a messy job, but parts are all protected with oil and it's going to look cool. I'm rubbing really hard on this, trying to get that bluing to weather and try to get most of it to come off. This is just my process. This is just how I'm doing things. Y'all play around with y'all's projects. Y'all figure out what y'all like to do and go with it. As DJ says, my tools, my rules. So that's the approach I'm taking. I'm getting very close to going ahead and put this back together. I've got these roll pins that I need to go ahead and crush down a little bit, hopefully that they will fit and replace the pins for the jaws. So I'm just using this vise to crush them down a little bit. Make sure that they're still circular and not ovaled and deformed. All right, that one looks good. Do the second one. All right, I think that's going to work. If not, I'm going to have to manufacture some new pins, but I think those are going to work. Get everything ready to reassemble. I'm going to go ahead and put it back together and start weathering this thing. Let's see if these pins are going to work. Try and position them the same. Just it's a me thing. Ooh, is that going to fit? Oh yeah. Snug, but it's going to work. Were the pins necessary? No, but the original one had it, so trying to replace them. And I did not put grease on the back of this, so I'm going to pull this back apart. Go ahead and put some grease on it. After taking the jaws back off so I could grease it, I've decided I'm going to go ahead and clean up the original screws and hardware. You can go ahead and do that real quick off camera. I'm just taking a file, cleaning up the slot for the blade screwdriver, and then cleaning the faces up. Again, this is just a mixture of oil and grease. If I remember correctly, it's like 70% oil. I think that's right. I can't remember what I did, but yeah, I think it's 70% oil, 30% grease. Putting it in the screw holes, getting it all over the back side of the jaws to help keep them from rusting. And I'm going to do that on the vise itself and the back of the jaws, just to help protect everything. Very thin layer. I'm not worried about the vise getting greasy and nasty because I'm going to weather it anyways, and it can be wiped off. Just want to get it back together and get it weathered for now. Just going to go ahead and fast forward through a lot of this. That's all I'm doing, is I'm just putting some grease and oil where it needs to go and making a mixture and just reassembling. A little bit in the screw holes. Get this pin in here. Nice little everything. Side by together. Giving it a good torque down, not over tightening anything. I don't want anything to break on me. Come on, get in there. May have to do a little bit more fitment now that I've painted it. Or just go in there and scratch out the paint. There it goes. See, that's good. Okay, happy with that. That's quite a bit more grease than I needed. Oh yeah, that's a lot more than I needed. But there's other parts that need it, so I can take it from there and put it over here. Just really need a thin layer. I put way too much on here, but enough on here to do a couple of baby Wiltons. So I wanted to show y'all something real quick before I get it assembled. I had mentioned before there's no date stamp on here whatsoever. And from the research that I've done, that indicates that this is a first gen patent pending, and it actually says patent pending here on the side. These were only made between 1941 and 1945. In 1945, well, so 1941 to 1944, because in 1945 is when they started using the date stamp. So this is a first gen baby Wilton from when the company first opened their doors. And a lot of the vices during that time frame were going straight to the military, and they weren't selling anything to the public until after the war. I know that for a fact on, I think there was a model 40C, if I remember correctly. I'll try to look it up. But I'm not sure about the baby Wiltons or any other models, but for sure during that time frame, according to Wilton's website, certain models were only being manufactured and given to the military. After the war, the military dumped all of their surplus vices and tools, and when that happened, from Wilton's website and their historical information, put a hurt on the company, and almost put them out of business, which I think is very interesting. Put a very little dab of grease in this keyway where the lockdown collar rides. That will spread, and then I'm putting just a little bit on the threads because that will work its way in just enough. Put the color on. All right. She's back together. Now, I could go ahead and just say I'm done with it, but I want to try and weather it. And that is going to be the next step. What I'm going to do, and I should have done this before I put these on. I'm going to take these back off, but before I painted it, I smoothed out the wording so that I could come back with some 400 grit and just take that paint off the top of the wording. Just because I'm going to blue them, I'm going to try to do the exact same thing I did with the 600. Get some of this extra grease off of here. So that's going to be my first process, is going ahead and taking the paint off of the wording. And then I'm going to come in with screwdrivers and scrapers and sandpaper, and I'm going to try to weather this thing, make it look a little bit more used. Go ahead and show y'all what I'm doing real quick. Kind of a tedious process. Just have a sanding block. I need to replace this paper. It's getting kind of old. And I'm just taking away the paint from on top of the lettering. See if y'all can see that or not. And that will allow me, once I clean it up and degrease it, I'm going to come back and blue the lettering. Okay, I've got the lettering ready for when I go to do the cold blue on it. I've marked up part of the side of the vise. Basically, I drug this lockdown lever against the side of the vise as if, that had happened. Got some different abrasives, 600, 800. I think this is like a 1200 Scotch-Brite, a pick, and a wire brush. And I'm just going to start putting some wear on this vise. Just rubbing it. I can go through the top layer and leave the bottom layer of paint showing. I can go all the way down to the metal. And I'm starting least aggressive, and I'll work my way up from here. You just put the wear where you want to. I think this is actually going to be very difficult because this is so small. Such a tiny vise. It's going to be difficult to do. But hopefully I get the result that I'm looking for, and I'll be happy with it. If not, I can always repaint it. So here you can tell that there's a deep scratch in the vise already. So I'm going to take my pick, just kind of gouge out that paint where that deep scratch is already at. And I'm going to come back with this wire brush next to it and kind of scuff up the area as well. Yeah, I like that. On the top of the vise, I can tell there's a lot of places that already have damage. So I'm going to scratch that up. Kind of hard to tell exactly where it's at because the paint kind of filled some of it in, but you can still see remnants of damage. So I'm just going to go in and scratch that paint up, remove it from the parts that have already got damage. Back here. That's just the process that I'm going with. I'm just coming along and revealing the character, accentuating the character that it already has underneath the paint. Not going too crazy with it, just kind of scuffing it up. So one thing I don't like about the bluing solution, I like the overall appearance that it gives. It's just very difficult to apply because I've got to heat it. I had to elevate it up on this tin because, unfortunately, I burnt my desk a little bit. But I'm going to let that cool off a little bit. I do need to neutralize the bluing solution. How hot is it? Still pretty warm. See if you can, yeah, it's still really warm. I'm going to let it cool off. I'm going to wipe it down with alcohol real quick, and then I'm going to come back with steel wool and oil and just kind of buff and smooth everything out, and that should be our finished product. Well, while it's still warm, I'm going to go ahead and rub the whole thing down with some oil. I think it's looking pretty good. I'm happy with it so far. And if I don't like it, You can always redo it. Completely redo it. Strip it, redo it. I'll probably put this up on the shelf, look at it for a while, and if I think it needs more character, I'll put some more character on it. If I don't like it, if I think it's too much, then I'll strip it and repaint it. But so far, I really like how it's coming out. So much easier to work on than that big 600. I just tossed this thing around. 600, I don't remember what it weighed. It was like 240 something pounds. It was not easy to just toss around, that's for sure. I'm really liking how this is coming out. I like it a lot. And the very last thing I'm going to do is I have a dirty rag that's just got all kinds of crap on it. Oils, sawdust, metal shavings, all kinds of crap. And I wipe down tools with it to give it that very finished antique look. The last step is I'm just going to wipe this down, this dirty rag, get this excess oil off, kind of polish things up, deposit nasty crap that's on the rag to the vise, and see what we look like. Oh yeah, I'm liking it. I'm liking it. While this didn't take near as long to antique as the Wilton 600, I think that it was definitely harder to do and get detail in it because this is so small. I do like the way it turned out. And like I said, if it doesn't become my favorite new mantelpiece, I can always redo it. Now all I got to do is find some copper or brass jaws for the little baby Wilton. Well, I appreciate y'all watching. Till next time, get out there, save something from being forgotten, and live a big life.